From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's kick it off. Going into another brand new day here, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Making sure you have the right person to go shoulder to shoulder with when it matters the most, when the chips are down. Glad to have you here. Let's get rolling. Three big things this hour. Number one, the price of oil continues to rise. Gas will soon be $4 a gallon because of continued speculation and fear that the Strait of Hormuz will be dangerous for oil tankers for weeks or months to come. Number two, President Trump says Iran wants to make a deal, but the Iranian leadership says whatever that is, they're not interested in talking about ending the war now in its third week. And number three, every so often when tragedy strikes nearby, I'm reminded that one of the greatest threats to Western civilization is the rising predominance of radical Islam. You really can't argue about it. And the fact that many of my contemporaries refuse to acknowledge what this religion and its fanatics actually stand for. The left has a notoriously bad habit of embracing anything that conservatives issue a warning about, even what they're embracing going against every one of their own beliefs. For example, it was radical leftists who helped the Ayatollah gain power in Iran in the first place during the Iranian Revolution in 1979, simply because it overthrew a leader who had good relations with the United States. These Marxist, socialist young people who claim to believe in women's rights, in gay rights, in civil rights for the so-called marginalized, backed Islamic extremists, just to say they stuck it to the U.S. And then the Ayatollah killed 30,000, maybe 40,000. And took all those rights away from the Iranian people in death, all on the basis of his religion. Over on Capitol Hill, Senator Tommy Tuberville has been calling attention to this hypocrisy that we're still seeing today. Here's part of what he said.
You know, in America, women are allowed to dress, go to school, work, and marry whoever they like. Iran used to be like this, too, before they were taken over by radical Islamists in 1979. This is them post-1979. Sadly, under the sick leadership of these terrorists, women are treated like dogs. Do you hear that? Women are treated like dogs. They are forced to cover every part of their body, of their skin except their eyes. They aren't allowed to leave home unless they're with a male escort. They aren't allowed to get an education or work a job, and they are forced sometimes to marry young as 6 years old. Pedophilia and inbreeding are rampant, and women are lucky if they are allowed to drive. Hell, we have a U.S. Congresswoman from one of these third world Muslim countries who is married to her brother. Where are all my Democrat colleagues who claim to be feminists?
He's having to draw attention to this because many of his colleagues and a portion of the American public opposes him. And they believe the lie that Islam is better as an alternative than the ideals of the West. That Islamophobia, which is really just any critique of the religion and its adherents, is more dangerous than the actual crimes being carried out by the Islamic extremists. And now tragedy has struck again, a few times. One time near me over in West Bloomfield, Michigan, where a Lebanese-born man rammed his vehicle into a Jewish synagogue with the intention of harming a lot more people than he actually did. There were more than 140 people inside the building, including 100 kids going to school when it happened. The car was loaded with explosives that failed to detonate before security agents were able to neutralize the threat. The man, Ayman Muhammad Ghazali, has not been identified as a Muslim, but it doesn't take a genius to put it all together. He was born in Lebanon, where 70% of the population is Muslim. We know his family were practicing Muslims. He hailed from Dearborn Heights, a city that boasts the largest Muslim population in the U.S. here in Michigan. And with a middle name like Muhammad, it's not too hard to connect the dots. And we know his brother. We know now his brother was a Hezbollah commander that was killed by Israeli strikes in Lebanon. That same day, Another man, Mohammed Baylor Jallow, opened fire at Old Dominion University where he was a student, killing an ROTC class instructor and injuring 2 others after being inspired by ISIS. And he would have injured many more if not taken down by an ROTC cadet in the room armed with a knife. But here's what should really concern you. Mohammed Jallow served in the Virginia National Guard. He was embedded in our national defense, and he had already been convicted of attempting a different domestic terrorist plot on U.S. soil years before. He'd been sentenced to jail for 11 years and was let out early by, of course, the Biden administration. And this is what I mean when I say the left is not taking this threat seriously enough, not seriously at all. Conservative statistics show that the U.S. population of Muslims growing much faster than the rest of the population, more than doubling in just the last 20 years. That growth expected to continue at that pace. There's been a 31% increase in mosques being established in just the last 10 years alone. The percentage of immigrants who identify as Muslim has also doubled in the last 20 years. And now the mayor of New York is openly calling on Americans to look to Islam, his faith of choice, for guidance on immigration law. Here he is.
We need not accept suffering as unchangeable. We need not treat hatred as the natural state. We have the power to set ourselves free. And I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, as for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world. Or as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers. If faith offers us the moral compass to stand alongside the stranger, government can provide the resources.
How warm and fuzzy of him. And completely deceptive, because that's not what Islam is focused on. It's focused on conversion, on making the entire world bend the knee or die. That's what Arab Islamic conquerors have been telling its conquests since the 1st century. For example, the Apostle Mark evangelized Egypt shortly after the death of Jesus Christ. It was one of the first places that Christianity spread like a wildfire, but 6 centuries later, Islam demolished every Christian church it could find in the year 711. During the Arab conquest of Egypt, the conquerors told Christians there were 3 choices. 3, convert, be taxed to death, or physically be put to death. You can imagine what happened to the Christian population. Yeah. We're going to get to what it means to be a Christian in an Islamic country in a moment here. But this threat is real because assimilation is not part of the process. And it's not just Islam. There are others that come here and have no interest at all in assimilation. They want to bring their culture here and create it in America. To hell with America is their theory. We'll hear from those Coptic Christians from Egypt after the break. It's Monday morning. Nice to see you here talking about big issues, as always. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so the take of the Coptic Christians in Egypt when it comes to Islam. Listen to this.
We are one of the few Christians that are left from the ancient world to give America a warning. Islam took over Egypt by force, by sword, by blood. They killed the men, they raped the women, they raped the nuns, they enslaved the children, and they eradicated Christianity, and they burned the churches. From 0% Muslim to 90% Muslim. We were literally genocided. Islam is a sex cult, it's a bloodthirsty cult, and it's a death cult. It's all of the things. It's a religion of sex, perversion, blood, and violence.
There you have it. The voice of someone who won't ever forget their history, who remembers the price paid by his ancestors. And it's something the rest of the world has seemed to have forgotten. Europe has allowed Islam to flood its borders and change the culture of that entire region, of entire nations, in just about 20 years' time. In the UK, Jews are 10 times more likely to be victims of hate crimes than Muslims, 10 times. In the past 25 years, 94% of all terror murders in the UK have been committed by Islamist terrorists, who also make up 75% of all counterterrorism caseloads, 75%. But when Conservative Parliament member Katie Lamb points that out, she is shouted down by the opposition, who makes an outrageous claim. Listen.
I am concerned that other members of this government have failed to approach this issue with the necessary caution or the necessary candour. We must be honest about the fact that, while violence against elected politicians can come from a wide variety of groups, the single biggest extremist threat to our country remains the threat of extremist Islamist violence.
Dawn Butler.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, I hope the Shadow Minister will get to her feet and correct the record, because there's a far greater threat from the far right than there is from Islam. And, you know, in this holy month of Ramadan, I'm sure Muslims all over the country will be praying for her soul, whether she deserves it or not.
Yeah, that right there, Dawn Butler. And the problem is that the left and the next generation just take her words at face value when she says them, despite the fact that they are wholly untrue. My concern is that I'm seeing the same thing happening here. You are too. San Diego, California claims to be a progressive city. It's as liberal as it gets, but it tolerates the teachings of Islamic imams who have been banned from the UK. This guy, specifically banned from the UK and Canada for his comments about how it's permitted under Islamic law to have sex with females they capture in war. The problem with the UK and Canada is that they're shooting the messenger and won't engage with the fact that he's only representing what his religion actually says. Here's what the imam is teaching in San Diego today as we speak. Listen.
He wants to ban Muslims. We will tell him, this isn't your country to ban. This is the land of Allah, as every land is the land of Allah. And there are Muslims here that are going to be here. And if you don't like it, I would suggest he goes somewhere else. But I don't know where he's going to go. If he goes back to Europe, a lot of Muslims in Europe. I've been there recently. You go to Africa, you go to South America, you go to China, you go to Malaysia, you go to Japan, you go to the Antarctic. There's Muslims. So I would make a suggestion. If he wants to go somewhere where there is no Muslims, I suggest he goes to hell. And know that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us the glad tidings that this religion of Islam will enter every household.
Enter every household. This is what every Muslim who actually takes their faith seriously believes, and we need to believe them when they tell us that. The left needs to believe them when they say that. And how do you think that Muhammad envisioned Islam spreading to every household anyway? Every tragedy reaffirms Islam's fanatics as the greatest threat to our Western civilization. Our Muslim population, like I said, more than doubling in 20 years. Mosques are exploding. Islamic extremists fuel terror plots. The left's blind embrace is hypocrisy. There are no women's rights. None, for example. We must wake up and defend our values before it's too late. That's where we have to be. We have to wake up and defend America. America and all the people that live here. All right. Meanwhile, Iranian's foreign minister says they have no interest in talking to the United States, but Donald Trump says they are interested in talking, says they want to make a deal, but that he is not ready yet with the ongoing war in Iran. Karg Island was hit, the crown jewel of Iran's oil industry. It moves 90% of the oil around the Strait of Hormuz, 90%. By the way, here's a little something for you that is available now that should put all of this to rest. There is a pipeline built across Saudi Arabia to avoid the Strait of Hormuz. It was built 20 years ago, but it's sitting there. It's ready. And we need to start using it today because that would short circuit this threat of attacks on oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil is at $99 this morning, which means gas prices are up again. And gas prices in America are up dramatically since this war began. The average $3.71 today. That's up a couple of cents from yesterday. It's up 25 cents from a week ago. It's up 75 cents from a month ago. It's the price we're paying. This part of the program brought to you by PuroClean's Veterans Initiative, PuroVet, empowering veterans through franchise ownership in a $210 billion restoration industry. 855-PuroVet or purovet.com. If you're a veteran or you know somebody who is, this is a chance to get a franchise in the property restoration business by getting to the front of the line, waiving some fees, and building a business. And, of course, helping America and your neighbors. purovet.com, purovet.com or 855-PuroVet. Check it out. It's Monday. Nice to see you here today. I'll take a break and be right back. Well, in order to impact those oil and gas prices, the United States is now demanding that other countries put their warships into action to escort oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, among other places. I don't believe there's been any evidence yet that Iran was able to put any mines into the Strait of Hormuz, which is good news. They've got little to fight back with. Their Navy, 90 ships now, 90 ships. Hit or sunk, according to CENTCOM. And the United Nations Ambassador Mike Waltz Sunday said the U.S. is demanding that international allies help escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz amid the conflict there in Iran. You want to be part of the solution, be part of the solution. Then you've got Canada. What a bunch of weak-willed weasels. Honestly, weak-willed weasels. They are offering nothing. First it was, we're not on board. Then we are on board. And then we think that we have the Strait of Hormuz open, but we will not be involved. Yeah, Canada will make a lot of money off this deal because they have a lot of oil for sale. And by the way, I just got off the phone with my friend Tim at Patriots Relief. He's having an amazing special. Buy 2 or more tinctures right now, get half off. 2 or more, get half off. Remarkable. If you're needing relief from aches and pains like I do, your body is probably begging for balance. CBD can naturally restore that balance. The pure And pleasant tasting tinctures from Patriots Relief activate instantly, alleviate pains throughout the whole body by simply placing a few drops of their CBD tincture under your tongue. Your body will immediately absorb that into the bloodstream, providing long-term balance and relief. As I said before, how wonderful Patriots Relief products are. Ivy and I love using them. Even our dogs love them. You could love them too. So don't forget they're offering a huge deal right now. Buy 2 or more tinctures to get 50% off, half off. Whether you buy 2 or 20, you'll get 50% off. Remember to use the promo code Gruber for 40% off on any other single products, including combo packs. Call Tim and his family now, 877-230-1776, to find out what tinctures are best for you. Once again, that number is 877-230-1776, or go to patriotsrelief.com, promo code's Gruber. Patriotsrelief.com, promo code Gruber. You'll be glad you did. And support a nice American company. I'll be right back. All right, well, what are we into? Our third week now of the war in Iran. Was never going to take a week, was never going to take a month. I was asked about this recently. What is your over-under on a month? I said over. We've hit something like, what was the last time I heard? 7,000 targets? Some ridiculous amount of targets. Karg Island, the crown jewel of the Iranian oil production, hit by the United States here in the last couple of days, saying, look, we will obliterate this island. You'll have no way to sell oil for years if you continue down this road. But the Strait of Hormuz remains a concern. That's why oil today on the world market is $99 a barrel. It's up from $67 a barrel 3 weeks ago. That's where we are. Joining me is Tom Sharp, OBE Corvus Senior Advisor, a former Royal Navy commander. Tom, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
At one time you were in the Navy for 25 years, commanding 4 warships on active operations. You know what it's like to be in a hot shooting war, don't you?
I do, and my last sea job was in command of a frigate, and my responsibility was the anti-submarine commander for 2 U.S. carrier strike groups in the Gulf of Oman, effectively preparing for what we're seeing today. So very intimate with the problem and the plan as it's playing out now.
Well, give us your assessment then. From your experience, your professional expertise, how is it progressing?
Well, this is, as you described it, this is a long game now. It's a logistics fight as much as it is missiles and bombs. Iran has had since essentially 1988 to prepare for this moment. When they got beaten in Operation Praying Mantis very badly by the US Navy, they spent the remainder of the time between then and now preparing, diversifying with thousands of small craft, mine layers, ballistic missiles, drones, all the things that we've seen so far. And they've made themselves very, very hard to hit conventionally. The Houthis gave us a live case study in this that lasted over a year, and the Houthis learned everything they have from Iran. So Iran, I think, is now settling back into a Houthi-style playbook, particularly in the Strait, where they can strike once or twice a day, light strikes. They don't even need to be particularly effective, but the effect on shipping is as we've seen it. And I think they can afford to play the long game, whereas perhaps we cannot.
Yeah, in 2009, they decentralized the IRGC. 31 provinces in Iran, they put IRGC headquarters in all 31 provinces so that they couldn't be taken out centrally like we saw at the beginning of this operation. So maybe they're in a long game, but we're not even clear that they have a leader at this point. He's not been seen in public. We're told that the son of the late Supreme Leader, who was appointed the new Supreme Leader, was badly injured in the same attack that killed his father. Do we even know who's running that country right now?
No, we don't. But the IRGC, and in particular the IRGC Navy, the IRGCN, who I know and love very well because they would rush us every time we went through the Strait of Hormuz with 20 or 30 fast attack craft, yelling at us on the radio that they were going to kill us. So anyone who's operated in that area in the Navy is very familiar with the IRGCN. And they have specifically practiced to operate in the absence of command and control from Tehran for just this reason. They have very diversified command chains, and they have their orders and people all the way up and down the coast with weapons and jet skis and explosives in garages or bunkers or dug into mountains. They have an attack plan for just this scenario, which is why occasionally it looks a little bit sporadic and poorly aimed, because it's not perfect. But it is indicative of them putting into place the plan that they've had for decades as to what to do when they lose communications with Tehran.
So how do you defeat that? Tom, how do you defeat little clusters here, little clusters there, jet skis and whatnot? Seem like pretty easy pickings for the United States Navy. I'm not sure what the Royal Navy's role in any of this is at this point, but the United States Navy obviously has complete control, really, except for it's almost like mosquitoes, isn't it? Buzzing around, you can't quite get them all.
Yeah. It's like, we used to liken it to punching fog. It doesn't matter how hard you hit it, it's going to fold around you. And that's where we are now. So, for example, that video of hitting the mine layers, the 16 mine layers, they weren't mine layers, they were fast attack craft. And they've got 2,500 of them at least, and then surface drones as well. And we haven't seen too much of that threat so far. And then you get to the mine layers where they've got over 1,000 converted fishing boats. They look exactly like fishing boats. So they're actually, it's very hard to strike them because they could just be fishing. And then they open the barrels on the back and out come the mines, and they've now mined the strait. So they have a couple of tricks up their sleeve that we haven't seen yet. Now, as ever, as it has been throughout this conflict, is that because they're choosing to hold this back for a rainy day or as part of a master plan? Or is it because they're getting beaten up so badly that they just can't do it? And you have to understand the answer to that question which I don't, incidentally, and very few people do, to know how long this takes. But ultimately, if we want to open the strait, Iran needs to stop firing, and that can happen one of three ways. They decide to, for whatever reason, negotiations or casualties. They're told to. That brings in China, and I think, of course, they sit in the crosshairs of all of this, or they're made to. So I'd always focus on the military option, option three, which is where you make them do it. But as we're finding now, that's difficult, and it doesn't take much to rock the confidence in the commercial shipping, and here we are.
Yeah, well, Lloyd's of London pulled the insurance contracts early on. The United States says they will escort oil tankers, for example, demanding that other countries join that effort. So far, it has not produced results. Oil is at $99, like I said just moments ago when I looked. Your guess, how long does this take?
Look, escorting is a really time-consuming and resource-consuming business. And my estimate at the moment, or my analysis, let's call it that, is that the US Navy there doesn't have enough ships to do this task. It's got roughly 8 destroyers in the Gulf of Oman, of which 2 or 3 are allocated to the Abraham Lincoln, the aircraft carrier. It's got another 8 or so in the Red Sea and in the Eastern Mediterranean, of which 2 or 3 are allocated to the Ford, USS Ford. If they all aggregated in the Gulf of Oman, then you're going to get in the region of 8 to 10 destroyers. Now, for the Bab el-Mandeb and the Houthi threat, that was Operation Prosperity Guardian, the US Navy on occasions had up to 12 destroyers just for that. And that's a much simpler threat, just the air threat, no surface or subsurface. So simpler threat, but more ships. If you go back to the tanker wars of and Operation Earnest Will, when that surged, that was 30 warships. So this is a numbers game. And the US could force it open now, no question. They could go in there mob-handed under massive air cover and get a blob of ships through safely and probably back out. Of course, we focus on the U-bend of the strait itself, but the threat is actually all the way out the Gulf. But they could do it. It's not sustainable. That's the problem. So to make this sustainable, you've got to write this threat down. You've got to make sure there are no mines, and there's a lot of conflicting reports on whether there are or not. You've got to make sure there are no mines. You've got to write the threat down, and then you need numbers. And that, in my sort of back of an envelope maths, we don't have enough of those at the moment.
Let me ask you this. We got 15 seconds here. Tom, was it the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do at this time? Overall, 15 seconds.
I think it was the right thing to do. Other opinions are available, but it's Iran, and we should have gone in there.
Tom Sharp, great conversation. You come back anytime. Your experience is invaluable in this conversation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. You want to hear from people that know? That guy knows. Right thing to do. I'll be right back.
New laws, new requirements.
All right, big weather out there today, and I'm just looking at the radar here. It's snowing as far south as Birmingham, Alabama today. It's snowing in North Georgia, all across eastern Tennessee. And as you go north, you find snow in Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and then it gets really serious. Blizzard warnings in effect from Green Bay to the northern parts of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, the entire Upper Peninsula, in the midst of a ongoing blizzard that's been going on for a day now. Some areas expected to get 36 to 40 inches of snow. That's real winter. That's March for you. It goes from being 60 degrees to being 60 inches of snow, which is why I love muskox, the best flannel shirt ever made. You just never want to be without it. Brad Hoos, founder of Muskox, joining me now. Brad, I love a good winter storm. I didn't get anything here. Originally, we were supposed to get a bunch of snow here. We got some rain instead, but man, to the north, into Wisconsin and Michigan, it's blizzard season right now. And like I said, all the way south into Alabama, it's snowing at this hour. Crazy, right?
It is. Yeah. I mean, March is one of those months where you like to think that spring is coming, but it's not here for you yet. You know, it's clearly still winter.
It's my fault.
Always a little better if we keep our mental thought on winter at this point.
It's my fault. I made fun of the little rat because we had all that weather, 60 degrees, so I made fun of Puxatawny Phil. Said he got it wrong. He had too much elixir, and then bam, this happens. But the fact of the matter is you've got a product, the best flannel shirt I've ever worn. Everybody here wears it. Everybody that's ever bought one has sent me an email saying they love it. An American company making the best possible shirt for March wild weather, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, Steve, you shouldn't feel too bad. Nobody's perfect, right? And we all have an opportunity every day to get a little bit better. And maybe this is too simplistic, but that's really always been our approach at Muskox. Like, hey, how do we get a little bit better? You know, day over day over day, and stay consistent in terms of doing our work. And I think it's paid off. We're really grateful that people like you and your team, support us and believe in the shirts that we make.
Yeah, you got 3 brand new ones right now. Sea Green, Sky, and Cayenne released for spring. Because, Muskox, you used to come on, you're on a few weeks right around Christmas. But now, as the company grows, as you get more accolades, more people saying, that is the best damn flannel shirt ever, you become a year-round company. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. It's not easy to start a small business, but I think we're making some good progress. And yeah, I mean, I think people have come around to recognizing, hey, these shirts are obviously great in the winter, but they're also great in the spring and even in the summer at night. You're down by the lake or the ocean or a river. The flannel just keeps you feeling comfortable, and people can appreciate quality right out of the box. And we can go into all the details of these shirts, but the bottom line is they're not cheap, but they are built to last and very high quality.
Yeah, they are an investment, but you make a great point there. These shirts, if you're along the ocean and it's a cool morning, they're a great jacket. They're a great throwover. They're a great go-to. They're the everyday driver for me. I mean, I wear muskox every day this time of the year until it gets to be about 65 or 70. But in the mornings, in the afternoon when it's cool, when you get that rain or that spitting snow and ice, which we get in March into April, they're perfect. Now, it's an American company, and you give back to wildlife. Another little bonus on the side for Muskox, you're helping out the creatures of the world.
That's right. Yeah, I know you and Ivy have some history in Alaska here, and so for us, we support the American wildlife through the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. So good folks in Alaska doing everything they can to help support and protect American wildlife. So for every flannel that's purchased, we give $5 to the AWCC. I know there's some other folks out there, they'll say 1% of profits, so after they take ours, but people think we're maybe a little crazy doing this, but we think it's just so important that if this is part of our mission, we got to put our money where our mouth is. So we absolutely do that in supporting wildlife.
You hear this? See this right here? Anthony just gave me the shirt off his back, folks. Anthony just gave me the shirt off. This is a muskox that he's been wearing pretty much daily. Yeah, he's taking care of it. And every single day. What's this pattern called? Do you know?
That's the Frost.
There's the Frost. Yeah, I knew you'd know.
It's got a little bit of musk to it.
Yeah, this shirt, I see him wear this every day throughout the last several weeks and months. I mean, this is the go-to dry. It's just so soft. These are the most perfect shirts. Folks, let me tell you something. Brad said it. They're not cheap. They are an investment. But this investment right here will be his spring jacket. It's his winter shirt. It's his go outside and start the car. It's everything. And that's why we love these shirts. Anyhow, he just walked out and said, you should show him this. Yeah, it's what he wears every day. $15 off, right? $15 off right now. Everybody should have one of these, shouldn't they?
Hey, we think so. We think so. You should at least give us a shot, right? I mean, there's no sense in avoiding giving muskox a try. And for Gruber Nation here, you can get $15 off with the code heavyweight, which is pretty cool. But there is one drawback to the shirt that everyone should know about, and is that significant other in your life is likely to try to snatch it. In this case, Antoine was very kind to share his shirt with you so you could see it. But a lot of times it just kind of disappear. And next thing you know, you'll see it on the shoulders of someone in the household you live with.
Yeah, there you go. Texas cotton, built in Detroit. It's the muskox. Folks, you won't be disappointed. Brad, what a great company you've built. I'm always proud to talk to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Great to see you again. Appreciate the support.
There you have it. And by the way, it has been named the #1 best overall flannel by Gear Junkie, by Anthony. Yeah, this he wears it every day. He's got another one, but somehow this just is his one that's hanging on the shelf every day. He's got another one. Maybe he's keeping it, in case of emergency. Heavyweight, 100% cotton. This is it. GoMuskox.com. GoMuskox.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save $15 off this. Yes, it's an investment. And a whole lot of great patterns to choose from. You will not be disappointed. I can assure you will not be disappointed. Muskox getting it done. All right, we'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show.
Feeling
All right, dropping today, 9 a.m., the new edition of Forgotten America, the podcast with myself and Ivy. Great conversation today about education in America, what they're doing to your children. While you think they're teaching you the same things and doing the Pledge of Allegiance and all the things that you did in school, they're not. Whole different curriculum because of dangerous people like Howard Zinn who have poisoned history in America, for example. Listen to this. It's Alvin Louie. Here he is. Here's a sample.
The school counselors are the most dangerous profession because they're the only role in all of K through 12 that has one-on-one access to a child.
Right. So they have potentially great influence, especially over a kid who's already been groomed through elementary school or middle school, wherever they might encounter them. They have greater power because of the groundwork that's already been done by the DEI and the nonsense already. You know, bring me back to one of Ivy's favorite words is steadfast. And we have to be on this point because, look, it's the future of not my kids, your kids, everybody's kids, and where we end up in 10 years or 25, right? I mean, it's imperative that we do these things. And I think you're right. We need to get this out there in front of as many people as possible.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but this makes me a bit angry.
Yeah, it makes us all angry, to say the least. Anyhow, that podcast drops today at 9 a.m. We have a whole host of them in there now. You should go check them out. Kyle Rittenhouse was the first. Fascinating conversation. You can follow us on YouTube. It's right there on your screen. Follow on YouTube. There it is. All right. Follow on YouTube. Click the QR code. You're going to love these. We're getting rave reviews on this podcast. It's about to be distributed by a whole bunch of folks all over the world. But the best place to go is YouTube. Become a subscriber. Click the like button. And tell me what you think by sending me an email. SteveGruber.com. SteveGruber.com. Send me an email, and I'll see what you have to say about it, all right? Meanwhile, blizzard warnings in northern Michigan and Wisconsin. It is rowdy up there, to say the least. Here's some footage of the storm from last night. I mean, it is coming down 2 and 3 inches an hour. It's going to go on until 8 o'clock tonight. All right? 8 o'clock tonight. Big blizzard. Welcome to March. That right there is why you need a muskox, my friends. Comes in from our viewers. Brett and Marianne set that up. I think that's Boyne City, Michigan. Yeah. Nice view. We'll have more after this.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
And welcome to it as we dive right into hour number 2 here, the big second hour of the program. Glad to have you on board for it. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom as we do every single day to make sure you are well informed and ready to go out and face the world. Here are 3 big things this hour. Number 1, in Cuba, protesters rampaging in the streets, burning the Communist Party headquarters as that nation is soon to fall and maybe taste freedom for the first time in my life. Number 2, gas prices continue to marching toward $4 a gallon, and it will soon be there. It's following the path of oil going higher as the war in Iran continues. How far will it go? And number 3, with the escalation of terrorist attacks on U.S. soil, the Democrats continue to defend their partial government shutdown that is keeping the Department of Homeland Security unfunded at a very critical situation. It's a terrible time for this game to be played. Seems to me the pressure is ramping up on the Democrats, but so far, they've got their heels dug in. They think that somehow they're winning this argument. Even on NBC News, Kristen Welker torches Senator Adam Schiff for the ongoing and reckless shutdown. Pretty amazing. Listen.
I do have to ask you just finally about this partial government shutdown, DHS not being funded for a month now. Just this week, we saw terror attacks in West Bloomfield, Michigan, in Norfolk, Virginia. This morning, the CEOs of the nation's major airlines and cargo carriers have written a letter to Congress calling for them to end the shutdown, talking about the importance of American security in the airways. Is it responsible for Democrats to hold up DHS funding with the threat of terror attacks looming during this conflict?
No, Kristen, as you know, we offered vote after vote, resolution after resolution, even as recently as this week, to reopen those agencies, to fund them, and the Republicans voted it down.
That is absolutely false. False. What they voted down was the Democrats gutting ICE and Border Patrol so they can usher in more of their illegal voters. Look, DHS support and funding is a pretty simple question. And if these TSA agents continue to not be paid, FEMA continues to not be paid, the Coast Guard continues to not be paid, this is not going to go on much longer before they just say, hey, I can't be here. What TSA ought to do, honestly, is all get together and call in sick the same day. Stop the airports, 100%. You want to get the Democrats' attention? There it is. Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, another Democrat who simply cannot explain coherently why the DHS is not being funded today. Listen to him fumble.
DHS?
So first of all, Democrats have tried multiple times to try to get TSA, CISA, the Coast Guard funded. Republicans have refused time and time again to fund.
Yeah, they want the whole agency funded.
They want the whole agency. ICE is still out there doing reckless things in communities. ICE is still arresting and detaining American citizens. ICE is still having unmasked people jumped out of unmarked cars, abducting people from the streets, barreling into homes. Even Americans, even veterans are being swept up in ICE's chaos. I will not approve another dollar for ICE, given all that they're doing. But we should be funding those TSA agents that keep us safe, CISA, Coast Guard. And for Republicans to refuse to do it is unacceptable.
All right, Senator Cory Booker.
And I'll make one last point. It's important, Jake. They have cut the people out of FBI and other agencies that should be protecting our homeland. This is a president that is not keeping America safer. He's making it more dangerous, having lawless people in our communities doing lawless things.
Oh, please. Lawless things like arresting people in the country illegally that are committing crimes. A terrible thing that they should do. Give me a break. Give me a break. All right? ICE doing their job has nothing to do with TSA doing its job at the airport and elsewhere. It has nothing to do with FEMA coming into places like well, northern Michigan and Wisconsin right now that are experiencing a massive blizzard and ice storm. The damage will be there, and FEMA will not be. It's tornado season now that we're into March. We'll see more extreme weather outbreaks. We're seeing some right now as far south as Jacksonville, Florida, running up the coast of Georgia. It's happening as we speak. Big storms. There will be damage. There won't be FEMA. It's inexcusable. It's reckless, and it's dangerous to America. This is all being done by the Democrats, make no mistake about it, because they're throwing a tantrum over other federal agencies doing their jobs as called for by the law. Meanwhile, that's not all they don't want to fund. Democrat Ro Khanna, another radical from California, says he will not vote to fund the military. But, you know, he did vote to fund Ukraine to the tune of tens of billions of dollars over and over again, but not the U.S. military. No, sir. Listen.
We've had a foreign policy blob that got us into the war in Iraq, that got us into Afghanistan for 20 years, that created the disaster that happened in Gaza, that now has cheerled us into Iran. President Trump ran against this entire foreign policy blob. He said he was going to put America first. He said he was going to fund manufacturing here. He said he was going to fund our communities. Instead, we're spending $2 billion a day on getting into another war in the Middle East. We've had 13 Americans died. I'm tired of this. So are a lot of people in the MAGA base and progressives. We need a new generation that's going to stop getting us into these wars. I'm not going to vote for another dollar until this war ends of new funding for this illegal war.
Illegal war. They love to say that, even though it's not. Barack Obama dropped something like 18,000 bombs or some ridiculous amount on 18 different countries. Fought in Libya for 9 months. In another illegal war, if that's your definition. Ro Khanna is not a person who looks out for America. He's a guy who looks out for himself. What's happening in Iran was 47 years in the making. They killed thousands of Americans, attempted to assassinate the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And these Democrats will sit there on the sidelines screaming about it being an illegal war, screaming about how it's illegal for Donald Trump to take out the regime and those pursuing weapons, real weapons of mass destruction, those being nuclear weapons. I don't know what it's going to take to win in Iran, and my opinion can change if it drags on or something goes differently in its direction. But right now, I support what's happened in Iran. I do. I think that taking out Karg Island completely would be the right message to Iran. Defund them completely. And at the same time, take oil away from China. And if I have to pay 75 cents or $1 more for gas, so be it. Doing the right thing doesn't come pain-free. Doing the right thing sometimes means we have to suck it up a little bit. And if it means paying more for gasoline, so be it. We can solve that by allowing drilling for oil in California. And oh, by the way, under the Defense Protection Act, Donald Trump just ordered that to happen in California. He's overriding the reckless state policies that have banned oil drilling all over that state. The Defense Production Act is now in place in California. That means more oil from California that used to supply 40% of this country's oil, 40%, until the radicals took over. Something to think about. It's the Steve Gruber Show. More proposals coming out of California to figure out how to tax those that are the producers, those that have been successful. And they call it a wealth tax, but as these things roll, it never stops there. It goes down and punishes everybody who works, historically speaking. That's my take on it. Joining me now is John O. McGinnis, law professor at Northwestern, one of America's leading thinkers on democracy and constitutional law. Professor, thank you for being here.
Good morning.
All right, so a wealth tax. It's a 5% tax, and it's not just California. Zoran Mamdani calling for wealth redistribution, free housing, and all sorts of other things they don't have the money for. In my estimation, socialism is shared misery. It gives misery to all. America, for 250 years, has created the opportunity for something different. And yet today, because of people like Howard Zinn and reckless fiction about what America is, we've ended up in a place where people seem to hate America and hate Western civilization. Let's talk about this wealth tax for starters. Does it help or hurt democracy?
Well, I think it is going to hurt democracy and, of course, productivity in California. One of the impulses towards this is to the worry that rich people have too much influence in democracy. But of course, there are a lot of other people who have a lot of influence, particularly what I call in my book, Why Democracy Needs the Rich, the clerisy, the mainstream media, the entertainment group, the bureaucracy. All of these people have enormous influence, including, as you note, academics who educate the next generation. And they lean in one direction to the left. What the wealthy do is actually they have a wide variety of opinions, and they allow voice actually to people who might not otherwise have their opinions represented in the public square. So actually they're a pluralist force for democracy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm just going to pound on Howard Zinn a little bit more. His Marxist beliefs have been permeating through the educational system in America from elementary school now through higher education for a few decades now, even though it's been debunked almost entirely, his narrative about Columbus and everything going forward, how America was built on the backs of slaves and indentured servants and the working class, and everybody gets screwed except the rich guy. I don't think that's the way the factory workers of the 1960s and 70s felt as they had their cabin up north and made good money working for auto companies, for example, where I live here in Michigan. They made great money. It really creates opportunity, like you said. Wealthy people create ideas. Those ideas are then implemented by people that work, and those working people are able to buy houses and cars and put kids through college and all those things. That's the way it always worked in my lifetime, and yet they have demonized the rich, attack the rich, attack the wealthy, and give that money to the government, right?
That's right. So the United States was founded as a commercial republic where commerce would be central to its working. And it's been paid off tremendously. And I think we can see that. The United States has the highest median income of any large nation in the world. Of course, all sorts of people still want to come here. We have a huge group of people who would desire to have a share in the opportunities that we've created. And commerce has been at the center of that. I don't say it's the only thing that's distinctive about the United States. We have a lot of other civil rights that are extremely important, but our commercial rights have been what has been attractive to people all over the world. And the attack against the rich today is really, I think, an effort to have other influencers, to have these mainstream media, the entertainers, people like academics, to have a larger state and a less commercial republic. And so that's, I think, what's at stake. The rich are only the surface targets of the attack of the wealth taxes in California. It's the whole idea of a commercial republic, which, as you point out, has been an engine for prosperity for all sorts of people throughout this century.
Yeah, it's created economic opportunity for people at all levels, the bottom of the ladder, the middle of the ladder, the top. Navigate between those levels depending on your ability. If you're a risk taker and you want to start a company, you can do that. You can be very successful. You may fail. That's the beauty of America. You're given the freedom to fail. And when you get to socialist, Marxist ideas, there is no actual failure. It's all failure. Look around the world, whether it's Cuba or Russia or any socialist nation. It never works, and yet they just continue to push this same narrative in different forms. They dress it up differently, call it something different, but we end up in the same place, don't we, Professor?
Yes, and I think it also mistakes the idea that the rich, and particularly the technological rich, whom this billionaire tax is aimed at in California, have actually made the lived experience of people much more similar. In other words, a rich person today lives a life much more like middle-class people than they did 200 years ago. I mean, for instance, all information is available to everyone on the net. Everyone's able to stream great music. And these are the consequence of great ideas. So indeed, while people certainly have different incomes, my life and the life of a duke were completely different in the 18th century. My life and the life of a billionaire are relatively much more similar today. And that's actually a consequence of what you pointed out, the ideas that come from entrepreneurs and innovators.
Yeah, and what happens is, as I mentioned, if you steal from the wealthy, and that's what it is, it's stealing from the successful, and give it to government, it just concentrates more power in the government, which is a terrible idea. The book, Why Democracy Needs the Rich, written by Professor O'Maginnis here, John O'Maginnis. Real quickly, your inbox must be fascinating. You're probably not well loved by the faculty. 15 seconds.
Well, I try to get along with the faculty. It's sometimes difficult, particularly when it comes to issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
That really were, I think, a great threat to what the purpose of a university is.
Still are. Still a big threat. Professor, you come back anytime. Enjoyed the conversation. Next time, let's make it a little bit longer.
Well, thanks so much. I enjoyed talking to you.
There you have it. Why Democracy Needs the Rich. Check that book out. It's true, by the way. You need successful people who create great ideas to build great things. It's called America. I'll be right back. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to be talking to a gentleman who is going to discuss with us these AI centers, right? They're being proposed everywhere, being built in many places across the country, and they take a considerable amount of power out of the grid, which means your bill, if not managed differently, would go through the roof. Now, President Trump has come out and said to the AI data centers, you're going to need to build your own power facilities. Now, we've seen these modular nuclear reactors become a reality. We saw one flown from California to Utah by the United States military here, just about a month ago. It's going to power an entire military facility, equivalent to about 5,000 or 6,000 homes. One reactor powers the whole place. Pretty remarkable. And that technology is moving ever faster. Soon we'll have little modular reactors the size of a toaster that'll run your house. Trust me, that's the future. Larger reactors can run AI, but the states where Americans pay the most and the least for electricity. The federal government figures national average at 17.24 cents per kilowatt. That's up 6% from last year. In some states, it's up dramatically more. North Dakota has the lowest in the country at 11 cents per kilowatt hour. 11 cents compared to 17.5. Pretty remarkable. Hawaii has the highest, 41.62 cents per kilowatt hour. They need modular nuclear in Hawaii like nobody else. The national average is 17, so they're 2.5 times higher than the national average. Its geography makes it a bit of an outlier. But California, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York among the clearest mainland examples of high energy costs. Nebraska, Idaho, Oklahoma, Arkansas, the cheapest. And here in Michigan, we're some of the highest. Indiana, some of the best rates. In fact, Indiana's doing something in the next few weeks. It's unheard of. They are lowering the cost of electricity in the state of Indiana. Think about that. Good policies lead to good results. Bad policies like bulldozing power plants that are in perfectly good working order because you have some pursuit of the Green New Deal is insanity defined. The Chinese and India all building new power plants all the time, coal-fired power plants. We've got to stop being so myopic, and we're going to talk about it. There's the groundwork for my next guest coming up in just a moment, talking about new ways to power these data centers after the break. The power demanded from AI data centers is remarkable. And for states that have not planned ahead, that means that the grid gets drained even more. The demand is pushed much higher. And guess who gets to pay the bill for these folks? You do, unless something's done about it. Darren Shoemate is the founder and managing principal of Shoemate Engineering, an award-winning design of AI centers, and former planning commissioner for Fairfax County, Virginia, the nation's biggest source of data centers. Sir, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Good to be here.
All right, so let's ask the timeless question, which I've asked a lot of people recently. Why do we need all these AI centers? What are they for? What are they doing? Why are they so necessary?
That is the question. In fact, I think a lot of what you hear now when you hear the pushback from data centers is, these developers are coming in. They're these greedy firms that are wanting to make a lot of money on people's backs. But the reality is, we are so tied into first of all the need for data centers, which is everything we've got in our life is on our little device here, and all of that data, all of that processing, whether it's your bank records or it's your health records or whatever, is in a data center someplace. And now with the advent of AI, whether we know it or not, AI is a significant part of our lives. So the reality is this is a real demand, and just for our day-to-day living, whether we know it or not, we need data centers. We need these big buildings that have this big compute power.
So we need them to control our lives. One of the things that it just makes you wonder, the state of the surveillance state. I mean, my doctor's records, my financial records, where I live, how I drive. I mean, my car is connected to the internet. My television is connected to the internet. Of course, our devices are all connected. This iPhone of mine downloads my information 2,000 times a day to God only knows where, because I don't know where it goes. Mostly it happens between midnight and 3. So again, what are these data centers for?
Well, so basically, basically everything we do is an application. So an application is a computer program that has to be on a computer. Well, as the internet has grown, we have any sort of data. So I mean, something as basic as pulling your photographs. When you go to your Apple phone and you pull up a photograph, well, the photograph is not residing necessarily in your phone. There's a record of it there, but it's not there in your phone. It's someplace in a computer in an Apple data center, and it's not on one computer in one building. It's shared between many computers in many buildings for reliability. So as that's grown, we need more and more data centers, because when you want access to your data, you want it instantaneously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what's driving everything, and it grows exponentially every day. I mean, I think it's really cool when I get this message from my Apple that it says, "Hey, I got this nice video, and it's my family trip to my brother-in-law for Thanksgiving last year, and it's nice music." Well, that's a form of AI. It's looking for people's faces, and it's looking for photographs in your record and putting together this nice little video.
Yeah.
And we've gotten so used to it that we don't even think twice about it. But that's AI.
Yeah, privacy and anonymity are quaint little ideas, aren't they? They don't really exist anymore.
So yeah, so that genie has been out of the bottle for
a long
quite
time.
a while.
But let me ask you about this, because I want to get to this, because this is really where I need to go. You have new technology to cool the data centers that you say can cut energy by half, cut water use by 90%. How?
Basically, and I've been designing data centers for 25 years. So 25 years ago, one of the ways to cool a data center is like you have an office building in, I live in the DC area, downtown DC. Any office building has a big cooling tower on top of the building that evaporates water, and that's where you're rejecting heat from the building to the atmosphere. And we were doing that with data centers early on. Well, the difference between, say, an office building and a data center is an office building has a load, has a need for cooling from, say, 8 o'clock in the morning till 5:30 in the evening, and then the system shuts down and keeps the building just cool enough where it's not impossible to cool off the next day. Where a data center, your load is your computers. They're putting off heat all the time. You would be evaporating water all day long. So you're evaporating a lot of water. Now, the reality is, it's not like we taking water and evaporating it, and then it's getting introduced back to the water or to the sewage treatment plant, or et cetera, polluted. We would always introduce water or return water to the system treated, but it's a lot of water. So as localities have grown concerned about the ability to meet that demand, there has been a push to cool data centers with air-cooled chillers, which is a refrigeration cycle that does not use evaporated water.
Right. So what about the idea that the president here at a meeting just a couple of weeks ago in the Oval Office said to the data center builders, you're going to need to power yourselves. Maybe that's modular nuclear, maybe that's natural gas generation for power, whatever it is. How important is that?
Well, so I want to finish the first answer, and that is, we have come up with a design, and I'm going to get to this question here because it's very, very important, and it's topical, and it's happening today. We have come up with a design. We call it hybrid dry adiabatic cooling. It's kind of a long, esoteric description of what we're doing. We basically are, instead of air-cooled chillers, which are very effective, they're just very energy inefficient. So for an air-cooled chiller, cooled data center, and we'll choose a nice round number of 100 megawatts. If you have 100 megawatts of computing power demand, with air-cooled chiller, you need another 50 megawatts to power the cooling. So that 150 divided by 100, 1.5, that's a power utilization efficiency of 1.5. And that's pretty much an industry standard. So if you need 1,000 megawatts or 1 gigawatt, you need 1,500 megawatts of power from the utility.
All right, hold that thought. Hold that thought. I got to hold you through the break to get through this entire answer, if that's okay.
Sure.
But I want people to understand this. These data centers are being proposed everywhere. Some communities are fighting them. Some communities are embracing them. So they're a reality going forward, and we need more of them, as you explained. Hold on. We'll be right back here on The Steve Gruber Show. AI data centers are a fact of life. They're here. They're being built. They're here to keep you connected to the world through your devices, through your home, through all the ways we're connected now that we've been discussing here. And I want to continue now with Darren Shoemate, the founder and managing principal of Shoemate Engineering. All right, Darren, let's continue on. 1.5 megawatts, 1,500 megawatts is what you said most recently. And if that energy comes out of the grid, it's the taxpayer, or the ratepayers, I should say, the customers that just live in their house minding their own business that end up with a much larger bill unless something different is done. Continue.
Well, okay, so I mean that's yet another very important consideration is who's actually paying for it. But going back to our design, we have come up with a design. It is a very clever application of existing technology, and what we do is we pair a dry cooler, which is basically a fan and a coil, and we're blowing air over the coil, and it cools it. It's very, very basic cooling, and then there's a medium that we spray water on, and that helps cool the air even more. And basically, we use that piece of equipment. It's called an adiabatic cooler. It's manufactured by 5 or 6 or 7 manufacturers, throughout the United States. So it's readily available piece of equipment, and we pair that with a chiller and a pump. And in one loop, we produce 98-degree water and 68-degree water, and this is kind of the magic formula. And we have one pipe that comes back to the system. That's engineering speaking, kind of maybe kind of boring, but what that does is it allows us to have free cooling, meaning we're not doing any refrigeration up to 60 degrees, and from 60 to 82 degrees we are doing what's called chiller assist, and then above 82 degrees we are using water. So it only uses water above 82 degrees. Now, what does that mean? This combined system uses half of the power of an air-cooled chiller. So that PUE number, that 1,500 I was talking about,
yep.
So 1,500 that we need to cool 1,000, we can do it with 1,250. So we have saved 250 megawatts of cooling. And the reason I'm using the megawatts and the 1,000 megawatts is that's the scale that is being built now in West Texas. There's this Project Stargate, which everybody knows a lot about, and that team is developing, a dozen other campuses or near a dozen other campuses, and they're one of several that are building at this scale. So what we've done is we've come up with a system that uses the significantly less power. It uses a little bit of water. Now, an air-cooled chiller uses no water at all, but compared to a water-cooled chiller system, we're using only about 7 or 8% of the water.
Let me ask you this, as I hear you explain this. Would this have applications to, once you develop this and cut energy use and water use, any application to homes or these buildings you were talking about, an office building, wherever it might be?
It could potentially for office buildings. The one driver is that what makes this possible. Everybody's heard of NVIDIA.
Sure.
NVIDIA really is driving the industry. They are the chip that supports the AI industry, and they cool their chip with water. So they have published multiple papers about how they can cool their chip with 98-degree water. Well, that doesn't really feel like cooling if it's 98 degrees, but the computers don't need to, they're not humans, they don't need to be at 72 degrees. They can live at that 90 to 95 or whatever higher temperature. So it doesn't work for homes because in homes you need cooler water to keep people cool. So it's
fair enough.
To keep cool equipment. Now, that said, you might have applications in an office, but probably not as much. Now,
I got it. So this is the future, though. If you can reduce energy consumption and water consumption, that'll make it a lot more palatable to people that are having AI data centers discussed for their neighborhood, right? So that's an important consideration.
Well, again, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't read an article in, pick your magazine or newspaper, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, listen to NPR by my local, and I live in Fairfax County, so Loudoun County is the center of the universe with data centers, and there's not a day that goes by that there's something on the news. And I know Prince George's County, which is a county in Maryland, has just put a moratorium for all new permits for like 6 months. In fact, I have a design that I'm working on right now in Prince George's County that's immediately impacted by that. So water usage and power is part of the concerns. They're also concerned about air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, lots and lots of things. That's why what we've come up with, I think, helps solve the power concern. The reality is we have a grid that we know already is fragile and
Sure
it's
is.
old.
Yeah.
I mean, I look outside where I live in Fairfax County, and I'll bet that the overhead power lines, first of all, they're overhead, not underground. The overhead power lines are at least 50 years old, if not older. And there are parts of the grid that are probably 100 years old.
Well, Darren, I tip my hat to you. I have to leave it there. We're up against a hard break, but we've got a lot of information in here today. And I wish you well on these endeavors, because saving power and water are key, because they are, well, they come with a price and a cost, not just for the companies and the data centers, but for the consumers if not applied properly. So I appreciate the work you're doing. We'll talk again. Thank you.
No, thanks for the time. This has been great.
Thank you very much. All right, Darren Shoemate. Shoemate Engineering, you can look it up. Innovative ideas to make it all work better, more efficiently, and less expensively. I'll take a break and be right back. March Madness upon us. Time for sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament brackets came out last night. For the men, Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida are the number 1 seeds. On the women's side, Connecticut, South Carolina, UCLA, and Texas are the number 1 seeds. The men's tournament starts tomorrow with the first 4 games. The women's tournament starts on Wednesday with their first 4 games. In the NBA, there were 7 games yesterday. Winners included Toronto, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, and Sacramento. In the NHL, there were 6 games yesterday. Winners included Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. Cameron Young won the Players' Championship in Florida for his first win of the year, beating Matthew Fitzpatrick by 1 shot. And Denny Hamlin won the NASCAR Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for his first victory of the year. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. All right, who you picking, Brock? Who's doing it?
I've said it for at least 2 months. Arizona.
All right, Arizona for Brock. I'm going to take the blue team. I think losing to Purdue was a good wake-up for them, actually.
Okay.
I do.
Well, they're a popular pick as well. I'm a little concerned about over-reliance on three-point shooting and the injury to backup point guard L.J. Kaysen.
Yeah.
But, you know, and they didn't play great in the Big Ten tournament. They almost lost their first game. But
they did.
But they're really good. Duke's really good. Florida's really good. And there's a lot of dangerous floaters out there, including Michigan State, who lost their first game of the Big Ten tournament. But, they're, you know, with
they're
Tom
2
Izzo's,
seed, right?
Tom Izzo's success in the tournament, you know, who knows?
Yeah. All right, Brock, thank you for that. Now, one of those who were once called conspiracy theorists turned out to be right again. A new study by Korean doctors claimed that COVID vaccines raised the risk of 6 different cancers, including lung, breast, and prostate. Researchers analyzed health records from more than 8.5 million adults between 21 and 23. Their findings published in Biomarker Research, a respected scientific journal. Critics dismiss it, but the data raises concern that spike protein exposure may be tied to long-term health risks. Dr. Peter McCullough has been aware of this for years. That's why the wellness company created Ultimate Spike Detox, designed to help clear your body of spike proteins, reduce inflammation, support heart health. They've got all sorts of great ingredients, and don't wait until the symptoms continue. Get it now. twc.health/Gruber. Use promo code Gruber. You'll save 10% and get free shipping. Spike Detox. Do it. twc.health/Gruber. Promo code Gruber. 10% off. Back in a moment. 234.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's dive right into it as we get into another brand new hour. Thank you for being here, fighting for you from that foxhole of freedom, defending you with truth. Yeah, truth and integrity. Let's get into the three big things this hour. Number one, across the country, black bears are waking up, as are grizzlies. Be careful out there. I'll have some safety tips for you. Number two, the electors are striking back after a court has tossed out Dana Nessel's case. Michigan Republican electors prepare to sue the AG. And number three, speaking of election integrity, incredibly important. Apparently, we're closer to the SAVE Act being a reality. It's been top of mind, top of fold, front and center for a while now. And the fact of the matter is, it is supported regardless of who you are in America, regardless of political party, regardless of race. People support the Save America Act, which means voter ID and proof of citizenship. It's not even a close call. 85% of Americans overall support the Save America Act. I suspect you're one of them. I am. I have to give an ID in Michigan when I vote. Why shouldn't everybody? Why would there be any question about whether or not you're a citizen of this country to cast a vote? Should be no question about that at all. And by the way, you don't have to resubmit your information. If you've been voting for years, you get to keep going. It's going forward. Pretty good idea. Supported by everyone, like I said. Here's an example from CNN. Listen.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So something of a
Period. It's not controversial by political party. It's not controversial by race. It is not controversial unless you're a Democrat in this country. The only people that oppose voter ID primarily are white liberals, and primarily white liberal women. Why? Why? Because they don't think that black people are smart enough to get an ID? They don't think that women that get married are smart enough to get an ID and being able to register to vote again? Please. It really is embarrassing. Meanwhile, Mike Lee, Bite 4, says the Save America Act is getting closer to where it needs to be. Listen to this.
Epic fury. I am the only Democrat that has refused to voting shutting down DHS. Literally the only one.
Hold on. I'll get back to him. Go one forward. Give me to Mike Lee. Bite 4.
Okay, important update on the Save America Act and the effort to get it passed. Look, I am guardedly optimistic. We've turned kind of a corner. Over the last few days, there's been some uncertainty about exactly what procedure we will be and will not be using. In the end, we've been working closely with Leader Thune and his staff, and they've been great to work with. What we're coming up with is something that I think is best described as a hybrid version of the talking filibuster. But look, let's not get mired down in nomenclature. What matters far more than what we call it is what we do with it. We're going to bring it to the floor. We're going to debate it for an extended period of time before filing cloture. And in my view, at least, I don't want to speak for anyone else, this bill needs to remain on the Senate floor before we file cloture on the bill for as long as it takes to get it done. Now, the fact that Leader Thune and his office have been willing to work with us on this, and they appear open to a variation of that, is a good thing. So let's keep up the momentum. Let's encourage them to continue to do this. Let's put the bill on the floor. Let's make those who want to filibuster speak and keep it on there as long as possible. Thanks so much.
As long as, get it done. Pretty simple stuff. Get it done. Another thing that's not controversial is funding the Department of Homeland Security. Something else the Democrats are avoiding at all risks. Chaos at airports is worse today because of weather. I'll get to that in a second. But chaos at airports is growing because TSA has employees that have not been paid. This is the third time in a few months this agency has not been funded. These people are getting screwed. Not by Republicans, as they try to tell you. In fact, one Democrat's honest about it. We just heard the beginning of it. Let's hear it. John Fetterman.
Epic fury. I am the only Democrat that has refused to voting shutting down DHS. Literally the only one. And now we all agree that this would not have any impact in ICE. They already have their funding, and it doesn't push or force ICE to do any of those kinds of reforms that people think are necessary now too. Why would you want to punish all of these workers that under DHS? Only thing that it could do is just make us less safe, and that also makes people have to go without getting paid. I'm at the airport virtually every week of the year, and I ask all those TSA agents, and I said, hey, do you like not to get paid for your work? I haven't met one saying, no, it's no problem. It's not a big deal. You know, so I truly don't understand that.
I truly don't understand it either, Senator. Thank you for being honest. Big storms across this country. It's snowing in Mississippi and Alabama. Big storms have ground stoppages in Atlanta and Houston at this hour. Plus, there's a blizzard ongoing in Wisconsin, northern Illinois, all across northern Michigan. Blizzard warnings still in effect until 8 o'clock tonight for some of those areas. Some of those areas could see more than 30 inches of snow when it's all said and done. It's a real March Madness storm, that's for sure, right? There's your quick look at the weather, and it's pretty rowdy out there in some places. We got nothing here. Here at the main studios, we were originally supposed to get 8 inches of snow, maybe 10, and then it was supposed to be half an inch of rain, and then it all shifted north. They do that sometimes, these storms. That big push of warm, wet air from the Gulf pushed all the way north and pushed the whole storm north, it appears. March can be a wild month. One of the biggest blizzards in the history of New York City came in the middle of March. So, is winter over? No. No, it's not. So we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, in Cuba, I haven't mentioned this yet today. They were in the streets, setting fires, protesting, burning down the Communist Party headquarters in Cuba over the weekend. They are out of power, food, and hope. They've had all the communist, relief they can possibly. They've had all the socialism they can take in Cuba. They've had all the free medicine and all the free grocery stores and all the free everything they can possibly tolerate. You know what else is free? Misery. Misery in Cuba is available at no extra charge. They've had it. That country within days now. Within days of going a different direction. The dictator there, I don't even know his name anymore. It doesn't matter. The Castros came and went. The country got no better. It's a mess. The people have had it, and they're ready to move forward, that's for sure. After the break, Ali Murray, Executive Director of the American Parents Coalition. The new Roblox lawsuit, what does that mean? I'll tell you about it after the break here on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, jumping right back into it. Ali Murray is my next guest, Executive Director of the American Parents Coalition. And a lot going on in a lawsuit in Kansas against Roblox for protecting pedophiles over children. Ali, greatly appreciate you being here. First of all, for people that don't know, what is Roblox?
So it's an online gaming platform, but what makes it a little bit different than a lot of your quote traditional video games is that it has this social component to it. So there's 151 million daily users, and essentially it's an all ages platform, and anyone can create an account, and you go in and there are these different experiences or games that are created by the users, and you enter into this social chat gaming experience with a group of people, many of whom you probably don't know, and you play this game. So as far as how it endangers children, I mean, you could create an account, be a 10, 12, 15-year-old kid, enter in a chat with, who knows who from anywhere across the country, and there's no real age verifications that are reliable in place or identity verifications. So you have no idea who your child is interacting with. They may say, or they may even think they're interacting with their friends or kids their own age, and it ends up being a completely different person. So it's a real breeding ground for predatory behavior and child predators.
And you say despite widespread knowledge of grooming and exploitation of children, Roblox still sells itself as a safe, child-friendly space, fails to implement basic safeguards to protect kids. That's your concern, right?
Totally. So they advertise themselves as A, being educational, but B, the most safe platform for kids on the internet. And first and foremost, I think parents need to understand that any sort of gaming or social platform that is connected to the internet is not safe for kids. We have a lot of resources on our website for parental controls, but parental controls are not always good enough. And without a parent really being in there and in the weeds and supervising it on a minute-to-minute, day-to-day basis, there's really not enough in place. And gaming is really something that should happen with kids in real life, offline. It's much different. I think one of the biggest problems is my generation, millennials, we grew up with video games, and it has changed so much. It is no longer sit on the couch beside your friend and play a racing game. You are now interacting with complete strangers on the internet across the country, and you have no idea who your kids are talking to.
Right. You're open up to the entire world, right?
That's right.
And so when you say there's a social component to this, it's not just a game. You're not just out there playing a racing game or whatever it might be. You're interacting with people that you become, quote unquote, friends with, but they are complete strangers. Whatever happened to people saying, beware of strangers? Because now we interact with strangers. We all do it on social media and gaming platforms every single day, 24 hours a day, complete strangers. We have no idea what their intentions are, or who they are, or where they are, right?
That's right. I think there's a false sense of security that comes, at least from the parental perspective, of having your kids at home. You think that your home is a safe place and nothing can happen to your kids in your house. But as soon as you give them unfettered access to the internet, even on a platform that you may think is safe, you're inviting anyone and everyone in through your front door. And that's really how parents need to think of it, is that this is truly opening the doors to your home. This lawsuit in Nebraska is broad in nature because they're focusing on the consumer protection angle and the false advertising by Roblox in claiming that they're a safe platform. But there are countless examples across the country of young kids who have interacted with strangers and then become victim to sexual abuse, assault, and trafficking in real life. And there are a number of ways that these predators go after kids. There's luring them, you start a chat with them and lure them into real life situations. There is just pure cyberbullying. And then there are also very bad actors online that are part of groups, for example, like 764, which are truly domestic terror organizations. And they're convincing kids to participate in self-harm send nude photos, and all kinds of other things that are really, really dangerous physically and emotionally. And it is much more widespread than parents understand.
Okay, see, parental, limitations on the phone. We have that on our phones. We don't allow social media at all. But these gaming platforms concern me. What can people do? Can they just say no to Roblox? That's just it? And how does this lawsuit play out, do you think, from Nebraska?
Well, thankfully, there are many lawsuits happening at the same time. There are 7 states that have similar lawsuits to Nebraska. So people are waking up and understanding what a risk this is to kids. I don't want to shut the door on these platforms, maybe figuring out a way to set appropriate and actual functioning parental controls, but we're not there yet. And that's a really important thing to remember. And I'm a parent myself. I have 4 kids, so I understand how hard it is to police these things. And also, most parents, we want to prepare our kids for the real world, and there is danger in the real world. However, it doesn't need to happen in this way. And you can still be permissive with allowing your children to play video games that does not have the social component. There's a huge difference between having friends over, sitting on the couch, and their social component being sitting side by side, beating each other in a racing game or whatever it is, versus a complete stranger or people who they may think are kids their own age on the internet, but there's no way to know. So for parents who are looking for that sort of middle ground,
yeah,
kids can still game. Screen time is not the be all end all. I mean, life is life. There are screens everywhere.
I get it.
We're going to use them, but there are controls that you can put in place to ensure that they happen in the real world and
with
are
us.
Human social. Exactly.
Yeah. Madden is still safe. Good to know, because the kids here have an obsession with Madden, and they play football, and they sit on my couch, and sometimes I play. So
there
that's
you go.
still safe.
That's perfect.
Come back and give us an update on this case as it happens, please.
Will do.
Thank you very much. Good conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take a break and be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Be careful, some things bite back. That's my advice for a moment here. Some things bite back, and it can be bad. Ivy, I just tell you, does not like bears. She's not a fan of bears, all right? And now is the time of the year that they will be coming out of hibernation. The bears are waking up. You had that false spring, as I like to call it, when it was 60 degrees, and all of a sudden you've got a blizzard again. March can be that way. All the way through. You can see snow in April as well where I live on occasion. We may or we may not this year. But the bears are coming out of hibernation, so be aware of the bears all across this country, all right? Anthony says he got bit by a snake this weekend. Anthony?
Yeah, I got bit by my snake.
By your snake?
It's a pet snake, but yeah.
Snakes are not pets, Anthony. They're shoes.
No. He's a good guy overall.
Yeah, so nice he bit you. Speaking of snake bites, thank you, Anthony, for this beautiful segue. A California mountain biker bitten by a snake, Julian Enrique Hernandez, 25 years of age, was bitten by a rattlesnake on the Quail Hill Trailhead. He died, Anthony. he died. A month later, he fought the snake bite deaths in America. Very rare. Ivy protected me from being bitten by a rattlesnake once. Quite a story. We were there in Texas in a little ground blind, looking for deer. And I go to step out, at dusk, and there's the rattlesnake. I said, get the camera. She's yanking me back in the tent, which she often does, yanking me out of harm's way. It's her lot in life, I guess. Anyhow, I wanted to film with the rattlesnake. I didn't get bitten, but I feel bad for Mr. Julian Hernandez. Costa Mesa, California, died a couple of days ago. He was bitten on the 1st of February and lived for more than a month before succumbing to the infection. Yeah. Intensive care unit for more than a month. They couldn't pull him out of it. Rattlesnakes, they come out when the weather gets warm too, so be careful because, as I said, some things bite back. Not just me, all right? Be careful, please. When we continue, we'll have more right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Well, election integrity, we talk about it a lot. We talk about the Save America Act here because it's incredibly important. And the more we learn as it trickles out, years later now, whether it's Arizona or Georgia or Michigan, A lot of evidence. And my advice to you, keep following John Solomon on Just the News because he continues to connect the dots and expose the truth. Now, will it change anything? I don't know. But there will be proof that people that were elected to the United States Congress did not win elections. That is still coming. We have no provision to change it, but people that are currently sitting in Congress did not win elections in 2020, 22, and yes, in 24 as well. But the Michigan electors that were charged with crimes by Michigan's Attorney General Dana Nessel, they're not sitting quietly by. Eric Cardall is the Esquire for Mormon. Cardall and Erickson, a law firm dedicated to defending plaintiffs against government overreach. He joins me now. Eric, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Glad to be here.
All right, so these Michigan electors, I mean, these were grandmas and business people, and all they did is put forth an alternate slate of electors, which has happened in American history a couple of other times. It's not unheard of, and it's certainly not illegal to put forth an alternate slate of electors, but by gosh, Attorney General Dana Nessel went after them for all sorts of terrible things. Where are we today on this?
Well, we're investigating the underlying charges, and we've come to the conclusion that there was cooperation between 501c3s like States United Democracy Center and Dana Nessel, and also the attorney generals in Wisconsin and Arizona. They're all working together at the behest of these Soros-funded advocacy groups. And it's one thing to have attorney general contracts with 501c3 groups if you're working on civil matters. But on criminal matters, you shouldn't have that kind of cozy relationship so that prosecutors will go after the political opponents of the 501c3s advocating for the prosecution.
Yeah, all right. So what they did, just to be clear, no violation of the law, unless you were offended by it and wanted to protect some sort of shenanigans in the elections. I mean, is there anything wrong with anybody putting forth an alternate slate of electors?
No.
Now, they can be chosen or rejected. That happens in Congress. We reject these, we accept these, right? That's how the process works, right?
That's right. But it's a First Amendment right they're exercising. And not only was it not criminal, it wasn't illegal. But the critical point here is these relationships between the attorney generals and the 501c3s, they're pushing for these prosecutions of their political opponents. We saw it across the board with respect to going after election integrity lawyers, ethics complaints, and so forth. So are we really going to tolerate partisans getting in the prosecutor's office and actually giving legal advice? The States United Democracy Center had contracts in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona to give legal advice. It looks like they're giving legal advice, basically pushing, fabricating inculpatory evidence against the Michigan electors.
All right, so where does this go then? You are suing her for malicious acts, is that correct? And how does this work? Look, lawsuits, let's just be honest about lawsuits. They're a process. You would think something's cut and dried, it'll be done in a couple of days and it's taken care of. It's not. These things could drag on for months, years, potentially. Well, what's the long play here?
I think the hook here is to file a federal court and to figure out exactly the relationship between these 501c3, progressive 501c3s pushing for the prosecutions. And they hide under the attorney-client privilege, so there are all these communications between the nonprofits and the attorney general's offices that sponsored the prosecutions. And it looks to me like the attorney generals just deferred to the outside organizations to run the prosecutions. Now, on the outside, it would have looked like normal, but on the inside, it was basically 501c3 money fueling prosecution against political opponents. And how much of that are we going to tolerate? I mean, we elect our prosecutors, they're supposed to be independent in making their charging decisions. And I have zero tolerance for that. In Arizona, we got the memo where the States United Democracy Center was basically pushing for the prosecution of the Arizona electors as counsel, under contract with the Attorney General's office. And so it's just very sad where we've gotten to, where these groups can just get into the prosecutor's office and choose who to prosecute.
Let me take this to just a different place for a moment, Eric. And I know you don't have the answer, but it's not a rhetorical question either. How many illegitimate outcomes, and I don't just mean in the presidential race in 2020, But at the congressional level, at the senatorial level, look, I don't believe that John Ossoff won the Senate seat in Georgia based on all the evidence I have now. I mean, he got into a runoff, which never would have been a runoff if the counting had been appropriate, and the mass mail-in ballots, which I consider to be the biggest of the problems. I consider the mass mail-in ballots much more concerning than any other element of what went on in 2020, which is why states are banning them now. What are your thoughts? How many people won, quote unquote, I use the term, won elections that they didn't actually win?
Yeah, all the close elections are suspect. The massive programs from the Zuckerberg funding in 2020 to the, if you recall, the Electronic Registration Information Center getting all the driver data so they could contact people who aren't registered, to the all-in-campus democracy challenge, like 1,000 campuses using student data to get students out to vote. And plus, all the other things we've talked about, ineligibles voting, including citizens, non-citizens wards, felons, so forth. Yeah, all those races are suspect. Dozens of congressional races that were close, and also, of course, the presidential election. So it was all wrong. It's all sort of not verified, and it's very upsetting that people say, "Well, don't verify the election in 2020." Well, it's not verified because it was rigged. So many
here's the
different
problem,
ways.
Eric. Here's the problem. When the founding fathers wrote this document in my hand, the United States Constitution, they understood human nature. They foresaw a lot of things that would come in the future, at least overall. They never saw the idea of elections being completely rigged. There's no constitutional remedy. If somebody gets elected to Congress, the United States Senate, or becomes president of the United States fraudulently, there's no constitutional remedy, is there?
Well, actually, we, in all the litigation I've done and others have done, we've caught the attention of the U.S. Supreme Court, particularly Judge Wash has been helping, and I've been helping them. And so there, the U.S. Supreme Court decision in the Bost case, B-O-S-T, it held that congressional candidates, for the first time ever, had standing to sue state election officials for violating federal and state law regulating federal elections. And the next case to watch is Watson. It's coming up, setting under federal law one date for elections. The election has to be done on the federal election date. And then there's subsequent litigation occurring too. So yes, it's never happened before, but the U.S. Supreme Court has come in on their white horses and they're saving the day.
Well, we all sat there and watched California districts, half a dozen of them. The Republican candidate was leading, and then a month later, the Republican candidate was barely leading. And then 6 weeks later, somehow the Democrats picked up a half a dozen seats by a handful of votes. It was magical, Eric, magical. Anyhow, come back, give us an update as this case proceeds. We greatly appreciate what you're doing.
Love to. Great job, Steve.
Great job for you. Thank you so much. They will not go quietly into that good night. That is for sure. All right? Thank you. today. A little devastated, a little teary-eyed, because I missed the giant winter storm that is pounding the northern compound as we speak. I don't even know how many inches of snow. I've just popped up the cameras to look. We got videos we used earlier from Brent and Marianne from Boyne City, Michigan. Pretty remarkable storm. I wanted to go, but Ivy said, yeah, if you lose power, there'll be no show. And I did it for you folks and for Ivy. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
So
I know. I think in a past life you wanted to be a storm chaser.
I
Isn't
did.
that right?
If I wasn't doing this, I'd be chasing tornadoes through Oklahoma right now, or they'd be chasing me.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, that adrenaline junkie. So look, Ivy's got some new glasses. Very cool. Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
They debut. Yeah. You know, why is it that women get,
I didn't know you wore glasses, Ivy.
It's a new thing.
It's a new thing.
It's a new thing.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
But why do women get
older,
25 pairs of glasses and I get 2?
You can have as many glasses as you want, dear.
I see that. Ivy keeps going, I bought new glasses. Yay. And then a week later, I bought new glasses. Yay.
Oh,
Anyhow.
my goodness.
Anyhow, what's on your mind?
So, hey, St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow.
It is. Yeah.
Do you know anything about the origins of St. Patrick's Day?
The patron saint of Ireland, I think that's what he is. I don't really know.
He is.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So interestingly, he lived in the 5th century. He was born in Roman Britain and was kidnapped at the age of 16 and taken to Ireland as a slave.
Really?
After several years, he escaped and became a Christian missionary and returned to Ireland to spread Christianity. So this, and interestingly, some have said that the clover is a representation.
4-leaf clover.
Well, it's actually like, I think in isn't it 3 leaves or is it 4 leaves?
Normally 3. A 4-leaf clover is considered to be good luck. Yeah.
Right, 3 leaves, because that's then representative of the Holy Trinity.
Ah.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. Never heard that before.
Yeah, and so yes, he was a patron saint. Because
Imparting knowledge upon me. Thank you, Ivy.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
thought it was really cool. You know, it's not just about drinking green beer, guys.
There's
the green
actually
beer
some
history behind this.
It's not just about turning the Chicago River green, which they'll do tomorrow, of course. Which
Right.
I think, unless their new mayor is against it because he's whatever he is.
So I want to actually, generally we don't care much about the Oscars going on, but there's a little clip I want to play for you with a woman, Jessie Buckley, who won. She was the best lead actress. She's also Irish. Let's hear it, Anthony.
Family, they're all here. Ireland bought them flights. Where are you? Can you just... Mom, Dad, thank you for teaching us to dream and to never be defined by expectation, but to carve from your own passion. You, Fred, I love you, man. I love you. You're the most incredible dad. You're my best friend, and I want to have 20,000 more babies with you. I do. I do. And Isla, my little girl who is 8 months, who has absolutely no idea what's going on and is probably dreaming of milk. But this is kind of a big deal. And I love you and I love being your mom and I can't wait to discover life beside you. Chloe and Maggie, to get to know this incandescent woman and journey to understand the capacity of a mother's love is the greatest collision of my life.
All right, you can come back to us, Anthony.
It's
Yeah.
So what a heartfelt moment there, and that she dedicated her Oscar award winning speech to being a mother and a wife.
And she dedicated to all the moms, I think, at the end there. I think I saw a little clip of that.
Yeah.
That is a turn for the better from Hollywood. I don't know what she won her Oscar for. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen the woman.
It's Hamnet is the film, and she won Best Lead Actress on that.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Congratulations for upholding motherhood. You know, if men were moms, everybody'd be dead.
Well, probably true.
Yeah, we'd all die.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think it's such a lost thing today where you just love and cherish your husband and love and cherish your children, and motherhood is so important, and I just love it. I love her speech there, and I can completely
Identify with her,
share
yeah.
and identify with her in those feelings, because you're pretty incredible, and I love working with you every day and love sharing our life together.
Thank
and
you.
So it's a great. A couple other things.
Soon to be a lot more sharing, by the way.
Yes, possibly so.
Well, no, that's for sure. It's
so
coming.
Did you see that Team USA Paralympic sled hockey defeated Canada to win gold?
More hockey gold for America?
More hockey gold. And also, really quickly, I don't know, how much time do we have?
You got a couple minutes.
All right, so there's this also, I just feel really happy today. I'm going to spread some joy. So there's a 104-year-old former Winston-Salem, North Carolina firefighter, Robert Greer. He got a surprise of his lifetime on his birthday, and dozens of fire trucks rolled by his front porch to celebrate his birthday. And if, Anthony, you're not paying that B-roll.
Yeah, it is. It's
okay.
there. It's beautiful.
And it's just so cool. I love, that really makes me proud to be an American right there.
Yeah.
Just giving back to your community, giving back to somebody who gave to you. And it's just so heartfelt. I love it.
Yeah. 104 years old.
Yeah.
I saw
great?
that.
And look
story.
at him. He's standing there, and he looks like pretty good shape for 104 years old.
He's got a cane, but, at 104, I don't, he gets up, he gives a wave. It looks like his kids are there with him look, his kids are 80.
Right?
You know?
Well, listen, based on, me being your constant health coach, which I know that you love, hopefully you will also make it to 104.
Aggressively helpful.
Oh, yes.
That's Ivy, Anyhow, if I make it to 104 and I'm still waving at the crowd, I'll feel good about that.
Me too.
William Shatner is still doing television programs. He's 94.
There
Although
you
he
go.
just had an accident, if you missed it. Had a fall from a horse, but he'll be all right.
Yes.
He'll be all right. That's why we don't like horses, folks. We like mules.
94? Maybe.
94. He's out riding the horse.
Oh, man.
Good man. Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
Good stuff. Yeah, let's bring some joy to the room. Why not? We'll have some final thoughts after this. All right, so coming up in just about 5 minutes, the new episode of Forgotten America will drop on YouTube. Become a subscriber. Look, it's free. Alvin Louis is remarkable. He is an activist speaking out about what's happening in education in America today and what's wrong with it. Here's a preview.
In restorative justice, it says if a the perpetrator beats the victim, instead of the discipline going to the perpetrator, they both now have to sit down, and the victim now has to also understand why he did what he did. So if a trans child, if a boy who pretends to be a girl beats the brakes out of a girl, of course the school will tell the boy, hey, you can't do that. You can't be violent. Apologize. Boy goes, okay, sorry. And then the female that's gotten her nose broken in and the brakes beat out of her, you also have to understand why he did that. Because as a trans child, he is marginalized. He doesn't feel accepted. This is why we need anti-bullying, be kind, and social emotional learning. So now she has to, through her black eye, understand his perspective. That's restorative justice. Now, that begins in elementary school, and this is how it begins in elementary school.
Yep, that's how it happens. Train them early, and then reinforce in middle school, reinforce in high school, and then release these activists when they get to college, right here. YouTube, the QR code will take you there. Become a subscriber. It's free and very educational. Alvin Louis, maybe the best one we've done yet, honestly. This guy is fascinating, and he brings the receipts, as they say. Don't miss a single episode, a whole bunch to choose from now. We add a new one every Monday. You're going to love them. These are good long-form conversations where we're able to dig deeper. So enjoy Forgotten America, the podcast on YouTube. Fight the good fight and keep the faith, my friends. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. Remember, only you can save America.